U.S. inflation rate in March set another record high.
Elon Musk made a major filing indicating that he might forcefully take over Twitter.
A retired U.S. Air Force officer shared his view on the safety of Taiwan and the role of the People's Republic of China and the U.S. in the Russia-Ukrainian war. Welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host, Wei Fang.
I'm Kathy Zhang.
Okay, so today Kathy will bring you a special interview of a retired U.S. Air Force veteran, right?
Right, and also he is now actually in Taiwan. He's a Taiwan fellow in Taipei, so truly an expert.
Okay, and also almost like a expert from the front line, if we consider that the war could happen over the Taiwan Strait. Okay, let's look at the inflation number now. For the 12 months that ended in March, consumer prices rocketed 8.5%. That was the fastest year-over-year jump since 1981, far surpassing February's mark of 7.9%, which by itself is a 40-year high.
So if we toss out food and energy prices, which are notoriously volatile and have driven much of the price spike, then we are looking at the so-called core inflation. It jumped 6.5% in the past 12 months, which is also the sharpest jump in 4 decades.
So let's look at a few commodities, okay? Gas price is up by an average of 48% over 12 months. Airline tickets up for 24%. Men's suit, like this one, 15%. Not that bad, but it's 15% is pretty scary. And the bacon, that is 18%. And
So the price hike started in last February. And the first month that President Biden started his job, the price at that month just 1.7% above its level a year earlier. From there, it went up every single month until today.
Well, Federal Reserve has been always calling the higher consumer prices as merely transitory. And due to, basically, they said shipping delays and temporary shortage of supplies and workers as the economy rebounded from the pandemic. Now we all know that they are wrong. Most economists expect inflation to stay high around through the end of the next year. So that's the inflation. Now, let's look at, today's on the our program photo, we said the Twitter on the toaster. Let's explain what's happening there. So Twitter filed something called Schedule 13D. I'm sorry, I take it back. My mistake. Elon Musk filed something called Schedule 13D yesterday, giving a status to himself called active investor. What does that mean? Actually, earlier on, he filed another schedule. It's called Schedule 13G after he bought 74 million Twitter shares. And the 13G, basically, on that form, it indicates he's a passive investor. Okay, buy some stock, have some weight. And so what does the active investor mean? It means that he could carry out a hostile takeover of Twitter. As we shared with you last on Monday, I don't think that we shared that. Okay, we'll share a little bit. So now he's no longer the board director. He's free from the restriction of not owning more than 15% of the Twitter's share. So in theory, he can go out and buy all the remaining 91% from the current shareholders. And so basically, by giving a status of active investor, he indicate that he could really forcefully take over.
Yeah, so exactly how to do that, just buy enough stocks. So what can Twitter do? First, they could ask everyone else to bind together and believe in the company's current strategy. Or second, put in a so-called a poison pill, which gives current shareholders the right to buy more Twitter shares at a deep discount, thus diluting the shares that Elon Musk holds in hand, costing him more.
So could that deter Elon Musk? Actually, just remember, okay, this guy has more than 1/3 of the totals, Twitter's total number of users. Okay, and they only have like a 210 million registered users. Okay, and Elon Musk himself has 80 million followers. So that's more than 1/3, right? And he also have a 9.2% of his share and 265 actually billion dollars as his net worth, which is 6 times of the Twitter's market cap today. And also, he can also carry the identity of the wealthiest person in the world and the best tech talent of the world. So he carry a lot of weight, not just by forcefully buy out the company, but also he could influence current shareholder to go his way. So if we ask that, could the current board of directors really deter him? If I ask my opinion, I honestly see no way of stopping him if he's determined to buy out Twitter.
Yeah, they're trying to make some noise now, right? They kind of wanted to, blame him not kind of hiding what he has bought.
Yeah, so interesting enough, after he tweeted that he will no longer join the board of director, Elon Musk has not tweeted a bit as of now. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, in a high month, how many tweets he sent out? Do you know? 450 tweets in 1 month, 15 tweets a day, spanning over the from 0 hour to 24 hour. This guy just work and act just like Trump. He just keep tweeting, and you wonder what he's doing. Besides tweeting, he built SpaceX. He built the electronic car, and he has this boring company. He's doing all the other impossible thing while he's sending out 15 tweets a day. As of now, he's not send out anything.
Somebody must be nervous.
Yeah, that silence is very, very
scary. Right?
Yeah, very scary, and it's a special form of tweets. So the CEO and the current board directors must be very nervous. I gave a very bold assessment or opinion. I said I honestly see no way of the current Twitter board stopping him if Elon Musk is determined. What do you think? I really want to know that. What do you think? Do you think, because this guy, would he move forward? Because he already made like 30% of the profit. He can just walk away. If he just sell all the stock and walk away, how much he make? He makes $700 million, okay, in a matter of just a few months. Would he walk away, or would he stay and fight? By fight, would he just buy enough shares or influence the current shareholders to go his way, ousted the current board, and then just put in his board? What do you think? So actually, I have a Twitter follower who just texted this to me, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I just conveyed it here. So he decided not to be the director of the board. He wanted to be the chairman of the board. That's why he walked away last Sunday. Okay, 2 days ago, right? 3 days ago. So what do you think? And also, another question I want to ask you, and I want to get your input is, if he were to get Twitter, what do you do? Would he just reinstate the account of the Twitter account of President Trump? What do you think? Okay, that's a question for you. I will give my opinion, okay, because I followed this guy for a while. And so based upon my observation, and I would like to give my opinion or predictions, but I want to see yours first. How about that? Okay, so next we're going to move to our main story today, right? So Kathy, can we just take a look to see whether we got any response there?
Okay.
And so that, we will just make this is really indeed a hot topic, right? Oops. And we do want to know that how you think about that. And okay, so people are still holding. In the meantime, please remember to press like and making sure you stay subscribed, and also and also have the little bell, turn that on. And we need you to, propel this channel to reach more people. And okay, so I think we're still waiting for you guys to feedback. And Luis, you said Twitter is dead. The only hope is Musk and DWAC, okay? Trump's company, I think. And imagine the takeover where all of us banned and censored can go back to Twitter after the takeover. Yeah, what do you think? Okay. And a part of the ground, you have a thumb up there. You got a candle. I think that's a candle of hope, right?
And Larry said, I just started a new Twitter account. I think I remember from the last show, another viewer said, I started to use Twitter again because Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So we're still waiting for your input, but before we move on, let me just give you my assessment. We can wait. Okay. If Elon Musk were to take over Twitter, I think he will reinstate President Trump's account. That's just my judgment. We'll see
okay,
whether
is
I'm
that
right
a bad,
or wrong.
bet?
Okay, yeah, so that's that. Anyway, let's move on to so Ukraine war has been going on at this time. It is a very well, basically the military expert said, there will be a very big battle. Okay, which is being brewed in the Donbas area in the eastern side of the Ukraine, and this would be the largest battle. Okay, since World War II, it is said. So both sides are just really just mobilizing their forces, coming to the battleground, and Putin is determined to win because he cannot lose anymore. Granted, Ukraine cannot lose either. So both sides are preparing for a big battle, and everybody's holding their breath. And you like it or not, it seems to be happening. And so in the meantime, 7,000 miles away in the Taiwan, that country is sort of like Ukraine and face a similar threat. Could PRC cross the Taiwan Strait and start an invasion? So Kathy, what do you got for our viewers here?
Yeah, so very naturally, a lot of people, think of Taiwan when they watch the Ukraine being invaded. So, some people compare the Taiwan and the Ukraine, right? So, what's the similarity and the difference between these two countries, and what are especially about the role of CCP in this war that people may not be aware of? So I interviewed an expert who is a retired U.S. Air Force officer and now a Taiwan fellow in Taipei. And his name is Guillermo Leilari. So Guillermo Leilari is a retired U.S. Air Force Foreign Area Officer specialized in the Middle East and Europe, as well as counterterrorism, irregular warfare, and missile defense. He has studied, worked, and served in the Middle East and North Africa for over 14 years, and similarly in Europe for 6 years. He was a U.S. Air Force attaché in the Middle East, served in Iraq, and holds advanced degrees in international relations and strategic intelligence. Guillermo researches authoritarian and totalitarian regimes that threaten democracies. Right now, he is in Taipei. So I asked, because from his experience, it seems that he spent a lot of time in Middle East, right? So I asked him why he seems so familiar with China. So he told me that actually his father used to work in Shanghai before World War II. He was an architect in China and actually designed a building in Shanghai. So when he was young, Guillermo always hear from his father talking about China. So when he was in the military, he studied a lot actually about the U.S. How U.S. helped the Kuomintang during the World War II. So now, he had the opportunity researching in Taiwan especially about PRC, the CCPs, what they are doing towards Taiwan in all front. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually the first question we started with is in regards to the, how in the United States people have different views on this war. Because, for example, the Biden administration, has been blaming the rising oil, gas price, and the inflation on the Russian invasion of Ukraine war. So, it's like, for example, Biden blamed again on the rising price on Putin in his Iowa speech. So let's hear what's Guillermo's answer.
I think people in the United States are feel sympathy for the Ukrainians, but I think the big issue in the United States is the economy. The price of gas, the price of food, the price of just living is more concerning to them than Ukraine. And I think people have a legitimate complaint that, and you talk about suspicion. I mean, I think that blaming the costs of food and oil and gas on this conflict is a mistake, because it's not true. The prices were already going up way before this conflict, and so Ukraine has become a political tool to excuse the current high prices. So I think that the American people should get answers and results on trying to fix the economy. Unfortunately, the current administration, the Biden administration, has stopped all planned oil production, increased oil production in the United States, to the detriment, and which causes the lack of supplies. So I think, if you ask a Ukrainian what's more important, is the war or climate change, I think that they would say that surviving the war is more important than climate change. And so I think there has to be a prioritization of issues, and climate change cannot be the number one priority of any country. The security of the people and the country is number one. Climate change, is down further than that. And so when we talk about climate change being a vital issue, I think that might be a vital issue, in the next 50, 100 years. But today, now, people are suffering, and they have to pay more for gas and more for food. And that really affects the lower income people, because they don't have the luxury of having extra money to pay for these things, and they suffer the most in the United States. And so I think that these are the issues domestically that are more important in some respects than Ukraine. I mean, we should support Ukraine, but I think that domestic issues, especially people who are suffering from the economy, need to be addressed.
Yeah, and also in regards to how to view this war and the United States government's role in there, one concern, we have been talking about that, but still, a lot of people, some people, including our viewers, still very concerned about the issue of the biolab in Ukraine. So I, wanted to ask Guillermo about his what he knows about that, and what is his insights.
I'm sure there are lots of issues that are concerning Americans regarding the biolabs, but the biolabs is not a new issue, and it's been around for a long time. So the Russians have always wanted to take over Ukraine, especially Putin, and they have always wanted to control the access around the Black Sea, and they obviously want the resources that Ukraine has. Not only the mineral resources, but it's, they call it the breadbasket of Europe. Some people call it the breadbasket of the world, because of the soil and the quantity of food that's produced out of Ukraine. A lot of countries in the world depend on that food. So the biolab issue, I think, is a little bit of a distraction. I think the focus should be on the fact that not only is Russia has invaded Ukraine again, but that I think the Chinese, at a minimum, knew about it beforehand. The Chinese Communist Party was aware of Putin's intent to invade. That's at a minimum. At a maximum, I think that there's a possibility that Xi Jinping encouraged Putin to invade for this following reason. Since Ukraine has the largest lithium and other rare earth minerals in the world, and the intent of Ukraine to join either the EU or NATO concerned China, because they want to control the mineral resources, especially the rare earth mineral resources in the world. So if Russia controls that, then and Russia and China have a close relationship, then China basically can control these rare earth minerals. And so it's in China's interest, actually, for Russia to invade and control the eastern province of Ukraine, and thereby controlling those mineral resources. So that's kind of where I would be focused on, is the economic reasons for Russia's invasion. Putin talks about the Russians in Ukraine and the Russian-speaking Ukrainians in the eastern province, but this is all part of the justification for basically taking over the mineral rights. And by the way, the Sea of Azov, which is a small sea area between Russia and Ukraine on the eastern side, now will be under the control of Russia, and also the oil and gas resources that are associated with it. So there's a lot of interesting economic aspects to this conflict that I think are much more important than some of the concerns that people have mentioned in the United States. Ukraine and Taiwan have a strong connection in that you have a big bully basically harassing another country. And as, again, many people are aware, in 2014, the Russians invaded Ukraine and took Crimea and a couple of areas in the eastern part. So this continuing bullying is similar to what the People's Republic of China is doing against Taiwan, constantly bullying it. And I think it's a very good similarity. There are some differences, but I think that in the big construct, Taiwan and Ukraine are connected. And I think people should think of that in those terms, as being a victim of a nuclear-powered bully.
And I remember you wrote, whether Russia would win this war, CCP always think it will win. And why is that?
Yeah, I was thinking about this scenario. So on the 4th of February, China, actually Xi Jinping and Putin, signed an agreement, a joint statement, basically saying that they will be best friends forever. And in addition, they both agreed to two very important concepts. One is that the PRC supports Russia against NATO. This is 4 February. This is 3 weeks before Russia invades Ukraine, number one. So the PRC or CCP supports Russia against NATO, and that Russia supports the CCP in the context of Taiwan, and that Taiwan, according to this joint statement, should be part of the PRC. So I was thinking about this joint statement, and it's a long statement. It's 5,000 words. And if you read through it, you start to think that Russia and China are becoming, let's say, an alliance, a strong alliance. And now if let's say Russia wins or controls the eastern province, which looks like it's going to be focusing its efforts there. So those mineral, as we talked about earlier, those mineral resources will become part of Russian control, and China will have access to it. If Russia loses, and we've seen that the amount of pressure that the anti-Russian coalition, the NATO, the United States, and many other countries have forced upon Russia, this action means that Russia becomes more dependent on China, because China is willing to do trade with Russia even during the war. So they're still buying Russian gas, Russian oil, Russian products during this war, while the rest of the world is boycotting Russian products. So in either case, as you mentioned, in either case, China wins, because Russia is feeling the economic weight of all these sanctions and is forced to depend on China, on the PRC. And if it wins, then the PRC benefits from the mineral rights. So exactly, they win either way. I think it's actually quite smart on their part. Unfortunately, I don't think it's good news for the West.
What does that mean to the West and to the United States and to the whole world when these two forces join together?
Yes. I mean, if you look at the history of the relationship between the PRC, Russia, and the United States, it's always been either Russia and the United States are opposed to each other, and China has been kind of neutral, and vice versa. Recently, we've been more, prior to the Ukrainian war, we've been more friendly to Russia, and our relationship with China has become, especially against the CCP, has been increasingly tense. But to have the PRC and Russia joined strategically and to work together, I think this will be an interesting challenge, because the CCP is an organization that has its ability to continue on and to continue to beyond Xi Jinping. You know, he has to die at some point. So the leadership of the CCP will decide who will follow him. I'm not so sure what's going to happen to Putin. I mean, eventually he will either get out of office or he will pass away. And the replacement of Putin, I'm sure that the CCP will have strong interest in making sure that that replacement is friendly to them. And in the worst case scenario, could be a puppet of the CCP. Actually, even a worst case scenario is that, I guess in my worst nightmare, the CCP would take over Russia. And that would be pretty catastrophic, I think, in terms of the world future, because of the vast resources that Russia has just in itself. You know, it has like 11 or 12 time zones. It's a huge country, but a very small population. So this would make, in my estimation, the CCP much more powerful.
President Trump really tried to pull Putin over. How do you think such kind of strategy?
Well, I think it was a good strategy. I mean, I think that trying to pull away from the CCP and pull in Russia would be the best strategy, and to try to make it, let's say, more European. I mean, it has European roots. They are, let's say, at least Christian, just like the rest of Europe. They have similar values, similar traditions. Obviously, the language is a bit different, but still, the philosophy is Western philosophy, and I think that all those things combined would make it more easy to bring Russia into the Western. Unfortunately, because of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the West is becoming a bit for sure anti-Putin, but potentially anti-Russian. And I hope that once the war stops, that we can work to bring Russia back into, let's say, a role where we work with them. Because, like I mentioned, I think pushing Russia towards China is a mistake, long term.
And you mentioned Taiwan and Ukraine, are very similar, but also have some differences. Yeah, could you elaborate on that?
Yes. Okay, so let me just mention a few similarities before we go to the differences so that people understand. Taiwan is a full-fledged democracy with almost 24 million people living on a main island and several other smaller islands. It is close to a superpower, i.e. the PRC, just like Ukraine. But here are some of the differences. The Ukrainian people can, if they're able to travel, they're able to, the civilians especially, are able to escape to their western border. They can go to Poland, Romania, etc. The problem with Taiwan is that it has no land bridge to anywhere. And so if the People's Liberation Army surrounds Taiwan with its navy and with its aircraft, it can effectively blockade the entire country, whereas the Russians could not do that. I'm sure they wanted to do that, especially to prevent weapons from being shipped into Ukraine and being used against them with disastrous effects from their point of view. So if Taiwan were to be blockaded, it would be a challenge to send weapons and for people to escape because there is no place to escape. So that is a big issue in my mind. And my concern is that we're so focused on supplying weapons to Ukraine that the Taiwan is being forgotten. And it's my belief that we should be also supplying similar weapons in addition to other weapons such as the anti-ship and anti-missile weapon systems to Taiwan now before the CCP orders the PLA to invade Taiwan, because I'm not so sure that once the invasion starts that anyone's going to be able to provide any kind of military support to Taiwan. So that is a big difference in my opinion. There are other differences too, but that is the biggest one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, I just interviewed Professor Victor Hansen with the Hoover Institute. He also mentioned that actually the United States should have supplied anti-ship missile to Ukraine as well, so that the Russians won't get into the Black Sea port.
Exactly. So in terms of weapon systems, Taiwan does have its own anti-ship, and it has bought the Harpoon weapon system, which is a U.S. system. But my concern is not so much that they have the system, but the quantity. As we know, the PLA Navy has thousands of ships, and not only the Navy, but the Coast Guard and other ships could be used for an invasion. And when you're dealing with that number of ships, the number of weapon system missiles available will quickly deplete, and they won't have any more, let's say. The other issue is that the enemy has a vote in the war, and so I'm sure the PLA is also looking at where these weapon systems are and are planning to target them so that they don't become a victim of these weapon systems. So there has to be not only enough, but it has to be extra to deal with the fact that the enemy has the vote in terms of destroying let's say your weapon stores or wherever you have these systems could be targeted. And so there has to be an excess amount. So I don't know if there is sufficient, but I suspect that there is not. And I suspect that they would need a lot more than they have now. So I've written an article or two about the fact that I think that we should also send anti-air, anti-tank, anti-ship, and anti-missile systems to Taiwan, not only from the U.S., but from many other countries, so that A, Taiwan has the systems, and B, they have time to train on them prior to a conflict. And the effect of this would be to deter the CCP from ordering the PLA to invade. The more the pain that the Taiwanese military can cause against the PLA, I think is a good thing. And the more that they fear what would happen to them, and I think using Ukraine as an example of how badly the Russians have been beat is important to re-emphasize what the Taiwanese military will do against the People's Liberation Army in the same vein. So the more weapon systems, the more time they have for training, the better, in my opinion. I think the results of the Ukrainian war have caused the CCP to delay the invasion because they see what happens when a dedicated population is willing to resist. So I hope they delay it indefinitely.
All right, so that's Guillermo Lalari. So, that's the first part of the interview. He further talked about, whether Taiwan government realized the issue that he saw and are they doing anything. Also, I asked him about, since he's arrived at Taiwan, living there for over a month now, how's the atmosphere there in Taiwan among the Taiwan people? So he shared with his assessment by talking to the people on the ground as well as the poll. And also more about the CCP and the PLAs, what they could be doing in Taiwan. So yeah, stay tuned. And the other thing, I think I saw some comments like Louis mentioned about this new development in Taiwan is actually, yes, on April 12th, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense released a template for the National Defense Manual and made it available to the public to download it. So what it does is it provided information on emergency response when the public face military crisis and possible disasters. The materials and other information are added to the manual to help people prepare for safety and self-help. So according to the director of the National Defense Mobilization Agency in Taiwan, his name is Wen Zhenyu. He said that the Ukraine's mobilization timing, formation, and the combat power would be used as a research and analysis of the backup mobilization work in Taiwan. But actually, this manual has been worked on for, it's not just recently. It's it's already been working on for some time, but it's right now they are releasing that. So the former deputy chief of the intelligence staff of the Taiwan Ministry of National Defense, General Yang Ting-zhang, said that the recent Russian-Ukraine war has had a mirror effect on the situation in Taiwan Strait, and making Taiwan strongly feel that all people are likely to face traditional military threats together. So I'm not sure if they really have some new information, but this is just in the wake of the Russian-Ukraine war. It makes Taiwan, both the government and the people, realize they need to get prepared.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So-
on the other hand, I think there's also another development is that the Taiwan military plans to start an exchange program with the non-commissioned officers of the United States military from this year. And the Taiwan military and the strategic scholars, also experts, generally believe that this move will not only boost the morale of the non-commissioned officers in the Army, but also contribute to the future joint combat capability that Taiwan military is striving to promote. So that's another development.
Yep. So you may have noticed that we are very concerned about Taiwan. This is as a Chinese American, as Chinese anywhere. Okay, well, we see a possible fallout, which is a war over the Taiwan Strait, because the CCP has the similar situation to that of Russia over Ukraine.
Yeah, I think what Gilman pointed out is that CCP really views whether Russian can win this war or not. They are winning because in either way, CCP can either get access to the resources in Ukraine and Russia, or even better for them is to just control Russia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a certain sense, I think that's been the situation because now CCP has all the money to buy the raw material or the oil and the natural gas from Russia. However, CCP dares not to do too much, okay, because Russia is facing these sanctions from all around, and then the U.S. has already warned CCP that if you do too much, watch out. So actually, the sanction against the CCP could be coming if they really do this in the too open way.
Oh yeah, and I also asked this question to Gilman about if CCP does decide to invade Taiwan. The United States already said that Janet Yellen in the previous hearing in Congress said that United States will use all tools of sanction against CCP. I asked him, what does he think about that? He actually has a pretty interesting view of that. He doesn't think this would do much to to deter CCP's decision. Yeah. So anyhow, I think we are inviting our guests to share their views, and some of them are real experts. But of course, people all have their own views. But I think it's something very interesting I found is that when we, before we talked to Taiwanese friends about how bad is the CCP, how evil is CCP, and many of them will kind of tell us, you don't know, actually the pro CCP Kuomintang is worse than CCP. And now I noticed that some of our fellow Americans here said, actually, because some people really fed up with for example, the current administration or the, Democratic parties, they will say, oh, they are worse than CCP. I just feel it's kind of similar because, because you come from a different life experience. But for people like me and the way, I think you probably have the same sentiment is that if you live in China under the Chinese Communist regime, you probably will agree with us, even though you feel the current situation is so bad, right? So bad, but cannot compare with the CCP. And that's why when I think people like Gurmont, he can clearly see the more important issue here in this war is CCP's role and its plan. That's the most important thing and the biggest threat to the free West and the whole world.
Yeah, so in Chinese, for that comparison, we say that's 天地之别, okay, heaven and earth difference. So, and CCP is evil that I think basically people living outside of China haven't seen. And but here I want to read Hugh Mann, your comment there. You said CCP will find a way to fail. Well, I cannot agree more to that. And then this is what is happening. So as ending note, let's talk about a bit about Shanghai. As we shared with you before now, there's this artificial or human artificially generated crisis for the city of Shanghai, the proudest city and with the proudest, people there. Now they are basically forced to be isolated at home and with no guarantee of food being delivered, and they just face starvation in many places. So actually, Kathy, you interviewed Dr. Malone the other day, right?
Yes.
So and because the entire campaign is to making sure that they want to reduce the number of infection from the Omicron to zero, and I guess we're still on YouTube, right? So, gosh, cannot believe this. You know what I'm thinking about? This is a sensitive topic I'm touching upon, and this video could be deleted.
Okay.
Right. Okay. We have to hold off here. Anyway, just talking about Shanghai, just a lot of crisis over there, and then man-made crisis, and the reason is just it's no longer a scientific policy, or policy based on science, or based on medical knowledge, or based on common sense. It is a policy of the political battle.
Yeah. So what Dr. Malone said during the weekend, we covered the live event in Los Angeles. So, about Shanghai, what's happening in Shanghai, and he said that really it shows that when they enact such kind of strict lockdown, it only delays the problem. Okay, because he said that the virus is just some kind of a water in the sky, in the air. You cannot really get rid of it. Stop it.
Stop the falling of the water.
Yes.
Of the rain.
So, they could only delay it, and as it accumulates, the problem is just going to get worse. And also, I wanted to share actually Patrick in our audience on Safe Chat. He shared a video with me, which I saw it a couple of days ago. It's at the nighttime in Shanghai, the skyscrapers, but there are screamings all over the city. It's just so scary. And there's someone's narration with this video. It's in Chinese and some in Shanghainese, a dialect which I happen to understand. And I don't know, I have told you that I came from Shanghai. I still have family members in Shanghai. So in this lockdown, so what the person was shooting, like a videotaping the screaming at night in Shanghai, he was just saying, I'm taping it. It just happened since 5 minutes ago, and the people are screaming. It's after 7 days of lockdown. Okay, it's after 7 days of lockdown. What happened is people screaming at night, and he said it's gonna be a huge problem if it's kept that way. And he said it's just so disgusting, and he said it's gonna be very dangerous. Okay. If it keeps going.
Yeah, okay. So we will just ending today's show with a couple of Shanghai jokes. Okay, the first one, whether you would laugh or not, I'm not so sure, okay? Just listen to me carefully. This, if you are Shanghainese now, you would laugh. So there's an old man, okay, in his 80s, right? He already got this Alzheimer disease, right?
Alzheimer.
So, yeah. So he went out and tried to get the delivered food because food came to the door of the building. He needs to go get the food. So somehow he just lost his consciousness. So he just sat down on the elevator. So after he wake up, he only see an empty bag, in his hand. He just simply cannot remember he's going to pick up the food delivered or he has already coming back from the door. Okay. It's such a late laugh. Okay, as you know, either way, you don't get any food. And then there's this Shanghai mayor, okay, not mayor, the Secretary General of Shanghai, okay, the party of Shanghai. That's number one, okay. The mayor is always number two. And this guy is called Li Qiang, all right. He's just touring around and ran into a resident who just very mad, shouting at him. So I really have things to say to you. So the Li Qiang just asked him, you have your own opinion, do you? He said, yeah, I have a very strong opinion, but I don't agree to my opinion. As you can recall, that's old Soviet jokes. Still valid today because the same gene is the same communism and that we're dealing with. But somehow they are able to dig their own tomb for themselves because if they just follow their crazy agenda, hold their own interests, to the most priority instead of serving people, they will hurt people, and the people will respond. This is we're seeing that happening now, right now in Shanghai. Okay.
Oh yeah, I just saw Louis said. I wish you could share the video that I mentioned.
Yeah,
so,
can we?
Yeah, I'm just trying. Let's see if Tony can play it. It's it's in a Twitter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I already sent.
Yeah, let's see whether Tony can load it up, and then we just play that. Let's hear the voice, and so that we know this is vividly happening in many parts of Shanghai. And then when people are locked down, what's their mental state, how they respond, and what could they do?
Yeah,
so,
my family members in Shanghai, they told me that actually, some of them, they had to just stay at home with the grandchildren, and the grandchildren's parents, they have been separately quarantined in their workplace, separately. Okay, so the whole family had 3 places to quarantine. Okay, here.
就刚刚5分钟前头，俺叫我没几个了，现在突然之间，所有人都叫了。
Everybody's shouting. They're making full
Listen to
screen.
that.
要命了！再这样弄下去，我跟侬讲，真的要出事体了。
He said if it continues, it really something serious is gonna happen.
根治啥么呢？因为所有的人，
Problem is,
你都不晓得这个状态
all the people really don't
到底
know
维持到啥个程度。
when it will
你总要
end.
把个标准，或者是讲有一个
Where's
具体的说
the
法。
standard?
没，
There's
侬讲过
nothing about that.
闷了7天，
They've been locking down for
当然我理
7
想
days.
不能出门啊，不是说不能出
Cannot
小
get
区啊。
out the door. It's
这
not
不行的嘛，
getting
让人
out
感觉
of
出事。
the community. How can this be working?
Okay. All right. So that's
Yeah.
that. And so here I'm reading from my phone. This is a message I got. Let me just read it to you. This is from a Shanghai lady. Okay, a pregnant woman. She said she's communicating with her friend. She said, "I'm a pregnant woman and I'm not in a stable state now. I've been isolated in my car. I was tested positive. It has been 6 days. I've not got the phone call from the CDC, which will get me to quarantine. They just ask me to wait. I can only wait in the car. I'm running out of food in my car, and the weather is terrible. I just cannot bear with this anymore. The baby in my
Tummy.
tummy is he said it's probably losing his life. The heartbeat is not. I don't feel the heartbeat anymore. Please save me. My address is the number 1515, and Pusan Road of the Pudong New District. My phone number is 1352-407-5743. Please help me." So this lady just messaging like crazy. Somebody come to help me. I'm stuck in the car. I cannot get out because I'm tested positive, and they don't come here to pick me up. So she stayed there for 6 days. Can you believe? A pregnant woman. And this is not rare. This is just one case out of probably hundreds of cases in Shanghai. This is the proudest city in China, the wealthiest and the proudest city in Shanghai. This is a man-made crisis created by this Communist Party. When they can control everything, they create everything. They create things like this, which is inconceivable still, fortunately, in this country of America.
Yeah, I want to share another video. Actually, yeah, I just forwarded to Tony. This is how they publicly shame a young man who initially refused to do testing.
Okay, that's
How
what
they
it
do
will
it. Just like Cultural Revolution, but you just have
Yeah,
to
talking
see
about
it.
people's right, that the government has absolute right over people. Okay, you have zero right. When they ask you to do something, when they want to take away, they don't need an arrest warrant. They don't need a court order. They just claim I'm from the government. That's enough.
Yeah. Listen.
Okay.
Oh, we don't have the audio.
Oh, we don't have the audio yet. That's not the right audio.
It's the video,
Oh,
but
we don't.
no,
Oh, yeah,
no
we don't
audio.
we don't have the sound. Can we have the sound? 赵旭声音没有。
想要做核酸的愿望，但是我们双方意见发生了分歧，我们之间有过激烈的语言冲突。在此，我要向大场镇、大华
I
二村
think he's
滨
like
海园聚
announcing
会
something.
诚恳
He's
地郑重道歉。
apologizing
现在是
publicly.
抗议
They
最
made
严厉的时
him
刻，白衣天使们都镇守在岗位
to
上，
shame himself.
而基层工作往往伴随着不容易与汗水艰辛。我们应当积极配合防疫人员的工作，
Yeah, he just
及
write
时做
something
核酸检测。遇到误会要及时积极
as
沟通，
apology.
化解、消除误会。任何过激的语言都是徒劳与不对的。聚会在这次抗疫基层工作中承担着负重的任务，我们要表示理解、支持以及敬佩。在此，本人代理向居委会与居委会之间发生激烈的争执道歉，就是语言是把利润沟通不良后便会造成伤害人的武器。我们应当服从居委会的安排与调度。基层工作是伟大的抗疫前
Yeah,
线。
basically,
向全
sorry,
体
I'm
人
sorry,
Yeah,
left and right.
I should have.
致敬期间，麻烦你把口罩戴好，鼻子露在外面，口罩戴了有什么用？
Asking that you
The-
put on.
自己每一个机构就会后
You
面，
are
你骂谁呢？
you
你
have
看
to
我
nose
对
out
不起，
how
响亮一
they
点。
made him
这是一个哎。
Bow again and again.
在此向居委会说声道歉。好了，好。
So I'm sorry. Finally, people say, "Oh, yeah, okay."
No, actually, they are the lady was saying you pull back your your mask when your noses came out. You know what does that do? The mask, and she was so just serious on him and asking him, to be louder.
Yeah,
To apologize.
Basically, yeah, they just shame people in arbitrary way. You have no way against them, okay? Otherwise, they're going to beat you up, they're going to take you away, they're going to lock you up. This is what a totalitarian regime behave or look like. Yep, so that's why we left China. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we can to protect this country from becoming a country like that.
Yeah,
So it's a very serious matter, guys. When the government, they have all the power, they do anything to you. And you have no way to resist it. Today, fortunately, we can. Just treasure the day that we have, treasure the country that we still have, and the freedom we still have. All right, thank you very much for staying with us tonight, and being able to doing this show is that's because of the liberty that we have in this nation.
Yeah, and we hope one day, whether on what kind of a platform, we don't need to watch out for what we talk about.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much. Stay safe, stay hopeful, and stay strong.
Yeah. Take care.
Take care.
Okay, good night.
Yeah, until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.